front. We're coming to you now. How's that for a change of pace? So considering that I'm wearing a bag, we're doing this, as you can tell, a little bit express because we ran a bit late this evening. So we're going to get straight into the talk. Tonight, unfortunately, our guest speaker was not able to attend with us to give us the final talk in our series on servant leadership. So instead, we have our very own, our very loved Fr.Pishoy Kamel, who will join us very shortly to give us the talk. We hope so far that you've enjoyed our series. The first talk, which was kicked off by Fr.Pishoy, which, by the way, if anybody wants, I've got the translation of his talk in English. So in case if anybody wants the notes for that talk, you can ask me and I can send it to you very happily. Without further ado. No one told me he was behind me.
I'm not that kind of an Abuna. I'm not the scary one. In the name of the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit, one God, Amen. Lovely to see you all on this nice spring evening, Tuesday, spring evening. So, as Daniel said, we're going to get straight to the point. I've got two apologies to make, one on behalf of the original speaker. So this is the second time on a Tuesday night that I've been given the blessing to talk on a topic that was originally someone else's, and then within 24 hours, I've had the blessing to give the topic. The second is that we started a little bit late today. We had a servants meeting beforehand, so I apologize for not sticking to the starting time. Who remembers the theme of this month of November? Servant leadership. Servant leadership. So, and if you remember, we had the introduction topic, servant leadership, in terms of what is servant leadership as a management style. Then we spoke about it biblically as well. As Daniel said, His grace spoke to us. What was the topic? Anyone remember? How to be perfect in an imperfect world. Then we had Demi talk to us about how to manage your career goals and aspirations. And then we had Brendan talk to us about how to create your professional network and utilize your professional network. And today is the last topic in the series that's wrapping it all up, my Coptic identity in the corporate workplace. What an interesting topic. So just maybe by show of hands, who's actually in a corporate environment right now? I'm seeing some nods. Okay. Who's actually working right now? Okay. And keep your hand up if you're, I didn't say put your hands down, hands back up. Keep your hand up if you're working in a company. Okay. Keep your hand up if that company needs you to deal with many employees. Great. Okay, hands down. So I guess a few hands didn't go up. I take there's some that are still studying with us, which is great, or some yet to start studying. Who's self-employed, just out of interest? Self-employed, wonderful. So you've got your own corporation. So my Coptic identity in this corporate world. And by the way, the corporate world doesn't necessarily mean that it's a company X or a company Y. It could be even you running your own business and those that you deal with. Because if, regardless of what business you run, you're going to be depending on supply chain, you're going to be depending on some people that are your clients, you're going to be depending on your landlord in terms of rent, and so on and so on and so forth. So whilst it may be a smaller scale, but it's still very much considered a environment that you deal with, and it's got a relatively similar element or style to what we see in bigger corporations. Now, who remembers what the corporate world used to be like back in the 60s and the 50s? Okay, I'm not gonna ask you to put up your hands because we don't want to be biased against age at all. But if you used to see the series like on TV, you remember people were smoking in the office. The dress code was very modest, beige, lots of beige colors for some reason. Maybe that was the color that was in. Flares and big hair. was probably the main differentiators. But what do you remember about the culture back then? Well, what was portrayed? Not remember. Remember means you were there. Yeah, I know you weren't there. What was portrayed? What was portrayed in the culture was that essentially there was a big boss somewhere. Everyone listened to that big boss. The boss's roles were mainly male-oriented and domineered. Females were given kind of secretarial duties. And then if you wanted to be the big boss, what did you have to do? You had to be part of the boys' club, meaning you had to always go out with the boys and show that you are, able to be like a party animal or something that differentiates you from the rest such that you can stand out. And there is a stigma associated with that. The stigma is that it's not about what you know, it's about who you know. And what that led to is that to get to be the who you know, to be in the who group, you had to have some of these characteristics of being able to stand out, being able to be in a dog-eat-dog world. And, to climb the corporate ladder, you had to stab people in the back or be the cunning person or be the person that was able to excel in sales through any means possible. And so it set up this culture in terms of certain styles and certain ways that were seen as successful back then. What's changed in the last 50 years? What do you see in the corporate world now? What's the focus? No trick questions here, but I'm looking for participation. That's why Daniel's pushed this table all the way to the back. No one can see you on live streaming. They can only see me. For those in the corporate world, what do you see that's different in the corporate world? No big hair, no afros, no flares, no beige. Hopefully no beige. Yes. Political correctness. Wonderful. Yes. Political correctness is certainly a huge agenda for all corporations right now. What else? Diversity. I like how you say perceived, but yes, diversity. And diversity usually goes along with inclusion. What else? Are we all that tired from work today? Perhaps. But political correctness, diversity, acceptance, but also a lot of the modern digitization of things. There's no more an inbox where people come and put a paper in your tray. There's emails now and My Team Spaces and Teams and what have you. There's the work from home function, which was really never an option back then and has really become a lifeline for the corporate world in the last couple of years of COVID. There is the equal opportunity in terms of, thank you, equal opportunity in terms of the female, and equal pay in terms of the female corporate citizens, let's say, having opportunities at the table like the boys do. And dispelling all these myths in terms of boys' clubs and, the boss, there's no more smoking in the workforce as well, which is good. It's changed radically. But one thing hasn't changed. One thing hasn't changed. What hasn't changed in the workforce? Remember we said to kind of be top dog, you had to portray a certain persona and kind of stand out and be, the person that is seen as, the one that's shooting the lights out with the sales or doing more than anyone else or the life of the party or what have you. Has that changed? Perhaps not. The thing that hasn't changed is that everyone in the workforce has a longing to succeed. Has a longing to succeed. Why would you go to work if you don't want to be successful? Who goes to work every day just to do the same thing and then go home? The concept of 9 to 5 and doing the same job forever no longer really exists. So people have got a desire to succeed. And their desire to succeed is usually linked in by this perception that I have to fit in. And not just fit in, but kind of stand out in this culture. And that starts to shape that person's identity in terms of what they see are the qualities required to fit into a particular culture and then be able to stand out. This element of longing to be part of the group and then show what you can do better than all your colleagues. I myself, I'm going to talk a little bit about my experience. So, for those that I haven't met, my name is Fr.Pishoy Kamel. I've been a priest for 4 months. God granted me this blessing after 25 years in the corporate world. In the corporate world, God had blessed my path abundantly, and I had been an executive for quite a few years in the finance industry, leading IT platforms and portfolios. Large budgets every year, team sizes that are in the 3 figures, global corporations, lots of expectations. As I started on my executive journey, which you can't nominate yourself for, you have to be nominated by your executive team. So I was privileged enough to be nominated to enter into the executive program. It's a program run by the Macquarie Graduate School of Management. We had the privilege of having a person by the name of Sir Ralph Norris. Has anyone heard of that name? Sir Ralph Norris received his knighthood across the Australia-New Zealand region for being an outstanding example of a leader in the business world. He was knighted by the Queen for that. And we had the privilege of having a couple of sessions with him about leadership. And his message always came back to a single point. His message was, to be a successful leader, you are there to be respected, not to be popular. Let me say that again. You're there to be respected, not to be popular. It's not about how many people like you. It's not about how you attract people to you because of what you think is that culture and how you can show yourself excelling in that culture. It's not about how many people that you've made friends with and are on your, LinkedIn account and you think are your friends and you go out on Friday nights to drinks. It's not about that at all. It's about when you are put into a situation to make a hard decision on behalf of your organization, that you're respected to make the right decision, irrespective if people agree or disagree with it. And so I thought about that in terms of, well, then if it's not about being popular, this stigma in terms of I can only fit in if I'm popular, the life of the party, how do you earn that respect? And how does that respect apply in the workforce? And so it's a very simple equation. Who's heard of a mission statement before? What's a mission statement? Come on, guys, some audience participation. Otherwise, I'm going to use the microphone and go around, put it in front of people. How about that for being uncomfortable? Pishoy? Can you get a microphone? Pass it around. Here's one. Can you please repeat that?
It's usually a couple sentences to describe the purpose behind an existence of an organisation.
Perfect. So the organization has got a statement to describe its existence and what its objective is. So, you know, we want to be number one in customer service, or we excel to be the best XYZ in Australasia, or those that are running their own businesses, you know, I will be providing this service to my customers in this particular way. That's your mission statement. What usually enables a mission statement? It becomes the business strategy. Especially when you've got a large organization, you've got so many businesses that need to work together to get that outcome. So each business has a strategy. And it's usually like a 5-year strategy plus. What then sits underneath the strategy? Who's been through a performance review at work? What happens in a performance review? For those that put up their hands, I expect an answer. Yes. What's your name? Pascal. Microphone.
They tend to measure your performance against the KPIs of the organisation.
Wonderful. Key performance indicators. And the key performance indicators are linked back to achieving the strategy. But there's usually 2 units of measure in a performance review. That's one. What's the second unit of measure? Mary, you're saying something? I saw your lips move. One is on the KPIs, the performance indicators. If in sales, how many sales have you achieved? If it's in engineering, how many design concepts have you converted into actual prototypes, for example? If it's in the medical field, how many patients are you seeing through a particular clinic, or in the emergency room, for example? What are the wait times for the patients? What's the second measure? Culture. How's that measured? Carmen. Please, continue. Your KPIs are not doing very well right now, Tedros. The microphone's not going around. So please share your name and say the answer.
My name is Mina.
Hi, Mina.
Hi, everyone. Where I come from, it's by adaptability to the vision and the mission of the company on which we base the strategy.
Fantastic. So what are some of the things that are measured in that culture aspect? And it's usually titled values.
Yeah.
So what are some of the kind of key topics for values?
Excellence.
Excellence. What else? Anyone else? Well done, Mina. So you usually have things like excellence, accountability, productivity. What else? Courage, care, commitment. It's based on not just the unit of measure in terms of how you're actually producing the output of the work, but the soft skills in terms of how you're doing it. Why? Because the company wants to maintain a particular culture. And that culture comes back to the person being able to operate within that culture's or that company's culture. And so they set values. Let me tell you, these values are so much more harder to measure than the key performance indicators. Key performance indicators is 10 units done. Stretch targets of 2 or 3 or 4 additional, great, you got a bigger bonus. But how do you measure a person's value in terms of integrity, in terms of honesty, in terms of collaboration, in terms of care, in terms of courage, in terms of commitment? It's very difficult. And this is a big differentiator in the corporate world because so many people can do the job. They can get those 10 units of what needs to be sold or what needs to be produced or what needs to be applied or implemented. But can they do it with the values that have been set by the organization? Can they do it by showing the care? Can they do it by showing the courage? Can they do it by showing the commitment? Can they do it by showing so on and so on and so forth?
Shortcuts, right?
Without taking shortcuts, having the integrity to do it. The value is all about integrity and honesty, and doing it in a way that helps that company grow. Because what happens when the culture of the company is good? What happens to the workforce? It's very good. People stay. What happens when it's a toxic culture? People leave. If you work in a culture where people are trying to step on you to get accreditation for your work, you're not going to be very happy. You're going to look to leave. If you work in a culture where, as we said in servant leadership, your manager is enabling you, empowering you, and supporting you, and nurturing you, and guiding you to do your best, you're going to do your best plus more, and you're going to want to stay. So it comes back to these values. Where do these values come from? You can't teach these values. You can't set down a bunch of engineers or a bunch of lawyers. Maybe let's not take lawyers as an example here. We're talking about values, right? Any lawyers? Any lawyers here? There's 4. There's Abuna at the back as well. Abuna saw the light. Sorry, this is my dad joke, number 1 of the night. Watch for more to come. Lawyers, any profession, analysts, teachers, you can't sit them out and say, here's value number 1, you shall operate in this matter. Here's value number 2, you shall care and love your fellow worker. Here's value number 3, you shall be putting forward your team and bringing them Krispy Kreme once a Thursday just to get team morale up. They try. Believe me, they try. But they can't teach it. Where does the value come from? Where? It's not a trick question, guys. It comes on from the person themselves. Their core belief. What's their core belief built upon? What's their intention for being them? What's their identity? How have they been brought up? What are their influences? Who do they align to in terms of loyalty? They're aligned to the path that says, hey, I'm going to be well liked so I can get some sponsors so that I can get that next promotion. Or they're aligned to the camp of, no, I'm going to be well respected by doing the right thing such that that could be seen, and that's how I get my sponsors and be respected in that business, just like Sir Ralph Norris said. I think one of the most beautiful biblical examples of someone working in a kind of a corporate world that showed their core values over and over and over and over again was Joseph the Righteous. Think about it. He was the favored son, got sold into slavery. Where was his first opportunity for work? Potiphar's house. And because of how he represented himself, the values that he showed, the belief in God that he had, Potiphar gave him and granted him access over all his household. There was nothing that he didn't have access to the point that Potiphar's wife saw how successful he was. She wanted to commit adultery with him, but his values stopped him. His values stopped him. His belief in God. If you apply that to kind of today's world, who knows? In the corporate environment where we kind of hear about some of these stories that happen, it comes back to the person's values. Didn't end there. He went to the jailer. He went to jail. He became the jailer's chief steward, in essence. Someone that's been unjustly jailed, that has the jail at their disposal. What would be the first thing that would go through their mind? I can escape. I've got the keys to every single gate. All the guards respect me and listen to me. But he didn't. Why? His values. And then lastly, when he went to Pharaoh to interpret his dream, and he interpreted Pharaoh's dreams through the gift of God. I can imagine when he went into Pharaoh's court that everyone was seeing Pharaoh as God. They used to see Pharaoh as brother to the sun, and the moon was his sister, and they saw him as a god on earth. But Joseph only worshipped one God. Pharaoh would have had to respect him for that. If he did respect him, he wouldn't have made him chief steward over all of Egypt. It's based on respect. So this is where it's important to ensure that the core values that we have, that have been instilled into us as Christians, as Coptic Orthodox Christians, or rightly so, that they guide us in terms of how we work in the workplace. There's this concept around moral compass. Has anyone heard of this term, moral compass? What does moral compass mean? Anyone? A few tired eyes already. Moral compass. 2 words come together. What do they mean? So some people that don't necessarily follow a particular faith, they say, I'm guided by my moral compass. And that moral compass comes back to their values, what they think is right, what they think is wrong. There's an aspect of karma or not to it. Whatever their belief is, they say, this is my moral compass. So whatever leads them to what they feel or what they believe is right, that's used as their guiding beacon in terms of certain situations. So then, myself as a Coptic Orthodox Christian in the workforce, how does this moral compass apply? And how do I exhibit it? So let's go back to some of the values that we spoke about and put that into application. So we said some of the values that the organizations look for in terms of the softer skills is caring. I had a guy in one of our teams. He was a Korean guy, and he was Korean, so I naturally assumed that he was non-Christian. Wrong assumption. He used to, for a period of time, for some reason, he stopped having lunch. No one knew why. He'd sit at his desk during lunch. He wouldn't come out down to the cafeteria, and he'd just kind of sit at his desk, continue to work. One day we said we're going to take the whole team out on a Friday, just like a team bonding activity. The company was going to pay. And so we invited everyone, and he was reluctant to come. I pressed him to come just in terms of the greater good and socializing and making sure that the culture in the team was good. So he came. We went to somewhere and we sat down. We all ordered except for him. I thought, what's happening here? I thought maybe he wasn't having lunches because he was on some sort of diet, or maybe perhaps he had some financial issues, but we were paying. The company was paying. He said, look, I prefer not to have my lunches. I respected his decision. We all started to eat. And I just struck a conversation, a non-work-based conversation with him. I found out that he indeed was Christian. And the next thing that I found out was the reason that he wasn't eating lunches was that he used to take the $10 or $15 that he calculated on a daily basis for lunch and a coffee, collect it throughout the week, take it, and give it to the poor. And I said to myself, wow. What a moral compass. What a Christian value of caring. He didn't preach it. He didn't announce it from the rooftops. He just did it. and I wasn't the only one that heard it. Those around the table with me heard that story. The amount of respect he received for what he was doing was phenomenal. It changed how everybody saw him. Let's talk about respect. Who's seen some of those email signatures that you get now in terms of the I identify with he, I identify with her, I identify with alphabet characters, I don't identify at all? Hands up. So a particular person from their organization, they got a requirement, as you'd see, you know, Christmas put this logo, so-and-so put this logo. So Purple Day was coming up. And they were asked to put a logo in their email signature supporting Purple Day. Does everyone know what Purple Day is? What's Purple Day, for those that don't know? Mina, we're not picking on your purple shirt by any stretch of the imagination. I know it's just coincidence, but let's talk about Purple Day. What's Purple Day? Microphone. Tadros. Hello, Tadros. Hello, David. Who's going to talk about Purple Day? What's Purple Day?
It's for like the transgendered community.
It's celebrating that diversity in gender. This person, you're never going to wear that shirt again, are you, Mina? This person was asked, he's a Coptic person, he was asked to go and put that in his email signature. What's he to do? Should he just do it quietly, fit right in, blend with the crowd? It's just an email signature, he's being inclusive. He actually went and asked HR for guidance. And he said, look, I'm a Coptic Orthodox Christian. I've got very strong Christian beliefs, and I want to be careful promoting something that my beliefs don't necessarily align with. It's not that I hate them. It's not that I dislike them. We love everybody, but you're asking me to promote something that I don't believe in. What do you think HR responded with? Here's your letter of resignation. No. They respected his choice. They said, that's fine. This is a decision that you're making based on your beliefs, and we are an inclusive organization, and we respect everyone. But he took the step to ask. He took the courage to ask. And there's other scenarios that are similar as well about Halloween. Someone in the childcare industry was asked to wear a Halloween t-shirt, and she said, look, we don't believe in Halloween. And she was respected for that. Someone was asked to clear the cubicle where they had pictures of St. Mary and crosses, and they had people around them saying, no, it doesn't bother us. So he didn't have to clear the cubicle. Someone was in an organization where people would swear, but because of his Coptic identity, they knew he was Coptic. He didn't swear. When people swore and he was in a meeting, they would stop, apologize, and continue and stop swearing. It's courage. But where do you draw the boundaries? And how do you show that courage? There's a beautiful verse from the Epistle to the Colossians, chapter 4, verse 5 to 6. It says, walk in wisdom toward those who are outside, redeeming the time. Let your speech always be with grace, seasoned with salt, that you may know how you ought to answer each one. There's a big difference between someone that's going and becoming provocative in terms of selling their identity, like waving it from the rooftops, titled Bible Basher. I'm Coptic and this is our belief, and really getting into people's faces. No, that's not what our identity in the workplace should be like. Yes, you should witness to it. Yes, you should be honest to it, like some of these examples that we saw. But it's not something to be used to go and be provocative to others. that's not how we witness to Christ. We witness to Christ through our actions. We witness to Christ through our deeds. We witness to Christ through how we show our values. And people will ask. I'll tell you one more story about, this is actually a story that happened with me. I'll be very blunt about it. Where I had a dear friend of mine who was a colleague, and we were working together, and he did not believe in any religion. He proclaimed himself as an atheist, and he was an atheist not just by choice but by study. He used to go and attend courses, like, you know, we've got here courses in terms of theology. There's also courses in terms of atheism. And he knew that I was Coptic. And one day, we got into this topic, and it was in the middle of the office. We got into this topic about why am I choosing Christianity? What belief is leading me to accept Christianity and have the hope of the second coming? So at that time, the conversation was relatively, let's say, positive to start with, and somewhat very nice, probably is the word. And as the conversation went on, he was trying to convince me, and then the Saidi in me said, I'm not gonna, no, this is my opportunity to witness. So then I was trying to convince him. And as you can see, as you could probably predict, he's trying, I'm pushing back, I'm trying, he's pushing back. So what usually happens in a discussion like that? It goes from a nice subtle discussion to a nice debate to a heated debate to a argument. I wasn't backing down, he wasn't backing down. So much so that the whole floor stopped working. They were just listening. And after quite a bit of time, then one of the executives stood up and said, guys, this is not appropriate for the workplace. Stop. You can continue it later. The funny thing is, after that discussion, let's call it a discussion, I had so many people come up to me and say, Michael was my name, Michael, it's a matter of faith. It's a matter of faith. You believe because you have faith. These are people that I didn't even know were Christians. I'm not condoning having an argument in the middle of the office to find out who's Christian, who's not. But it was through God's miraculous ways of working, showed me that there is people out there that have the same faith and the same belief. And it shows in their values in terms of how they work and how they conduct their work and how they uphold themselves in this corporate workplace. The most amazing thing, though, in terms of my career and my Christianity and being Coptic Orthodox, my Coptic identity, all came to fruition about 2.5 weeks ago. 2.5 weeks ago, I went back to work to hand in the laptop, the mobile phone, the corporate credit card, access pass, a few other things. And I went like this. I could tell you as soon as I walked in through the foyer doors, the first person that came up to me was a security guard. Excuse me, sir, you're in the right place. I said to him, yes, I am actually I was employed here. And he said, are you sure? I said to him, yes, I'm sure. And I kind of showed him my digital pass. And he was still worried. So I said, look, I'm going to try the turnstiles and see if I can get in. I tried the turnstiles that opened, and to his amazement, I walked in. And I said, okay, thank you, sir. If you need anything, I'm down here. He was kind of just telling me basically he's going to have eyes on me the whole time I'm inside. I went in just to I was invited to go in to sit with my leadership team, the leadership team of executives, just to kind of talk to them about God's calling, because they didn't really know. And I guess it was part of my nature to really want to maintain wonderful relationships and friendships that I've had for so many years. So I thought it was appropriate, and I was invited by the lead executive in that space to come in, and they had like a cake and so on. So I went in, I didn't want to cause a commotion upstairs, so I kind of sat around the level where the cafeteria is. And you'd be surprised that I thought people are going to freak out. People would look. But because of this political correctness that we were talking about, there is a large and I guess a very wide scope of acceptance. No one gawked, no one came up to me and said, like, what are you doing here? No one even approached me. Just they went about their daily business. Even though I went with the Amma and everything as you see here. So then I thought, okay, this is interesting. I started to see a few people that I'd worked with previously, and I thought, why don't I just approach them? Let's see what happens. So I'd go and say, good morning, and they'd look at me in like shock, and they recognize the voice, but they can't reconcile it with what they're seeing. So their eyes are telling them one thing, but their ears are telling them something else. And they go, are you Michael? I go, I was Michael. And the amount of surprise and joy that you see in their face is beyond expression. They want to know what happened and what am I doing now and how did it come about and so on and so on and so forth. So that was kind of a few people in the cafeteria, and I thought I'd kind of try it out before I go into the leadership meeting with all the other executives and shock them. And so I did then, 1 o'clock, I knocked on the room, walked in, and everyone just turned around. The guys that were on the screen on the Teams meeting, they just froze. They froze so much that we didn't know if the signal had dropped out, if they were just frozen in their chairs. Their mouth was just wide open. And so the executive general manager, my general manager at that point in time, he said, guys, I didn't tell you, but I wanted to show you Michael's choice. So I sat down with them, and it took them like 30 seconds to recover from the shock. And then the questions started to flood. And mind you, again, these are all executives. They're smart, savvy, great business acumen. They have seen so much in the corporate workplace, but they've never seen this before. Most of the questions were about, like, who are you now and what happened and how did it come about and so on and so forth. But what I found most interesting was they started to talk about their Christianity. I had a guy that used to work for me that was from Pakistan. I didn't think he was Christian. He goes to church every single week with his family. He couldn't stop talking about the amount of services that he does at church. I had another general manager call me up and talk about his church and the service that he does in his church and how that gives them joy in terms of their family and brings their family together. One guy that was sitting opposite, his mouth was just open the whole time. And I said to him, I'm not going to repeat his name for confidentiality purposes, but I said, so-and-so, are you okay? Like, I could see you in shock. He goes, look, I'm a very spiritual person myself. I'm a believer myself. And seeing that you've taken this path, I'm in awe. I'm in awe that you've been able to witness and testify. And whilst it was endearing to see all this hidden Christianity, if I can give it a label, it was also very interesting to see that those people, the way that they worked, their core values, the way that they presented themselves, the way they carried themselves, the way that they integrated into the culture of the company was very much based on their faith and their values in faith. And they weren't scared to show it. They didn't shout it from the rooftops, but they did it through their actions. And that's how we show our Christianity in the workplace. We do it through our actions. Our Christian values determine our actions. That becomes our moral compass. And through that, we're not seeking popularity, we're seeking respect. And believe me, my experience was, for those that will sponsor you, they will sponsor you based on your actions, not based on your popularity. They don't want the person that's buying rounds of drinks and trying to be the popular one. They want the person that's able to make the hard decisions and have the hard conversations and speak up when others won't and be true and honest to their values. And for me, that's all summed up in one beautiful verse from the Gospel of St. Matthew, chapter 5, verse 16. Let your light so shine before men that they may see your good works and glorify your Father in heaven, and glory be to God forevermore. Amen. Any questions? Not at all. Of course, why not? But let me kind of show you one more thing. If I can get onto the live streaming. What's the code? 5613. It's thinking about it. This was the day I went into work. I was actually asked to take some photos with my colleagues. The guy on the right, he's an executive, my colleague, and the young lady on the young lady on my right, she's a manager, a senior manager, and the guy on my left, he's an executive, one of my colleagues, and they were not letting me go until they took a picture with me, because they were so overjoyed with the fact that someone not only showed their Christianity, but took that as their path of life. So I thought I'd share that with you as well. If no questions, I'll hand over to Otsabuna.
Thank you so much, Abana. That's lovely. I'm quite sure you have enjoyed the talk. Okay. I need to check with you, with the guys. Are you good in soccer? Tedros? No way. No, you're not. Okay. All right. Tedros, number one. Who's number two? Okay. Boys. Andrew. No, you're Italian, man. Okay. Italy, the best country in. Yeah, okay. Mina. Joseph. Mina. Sabit. Pishoy. Dennis. You're fitness. Okay. What are we gonna do? We're gonna try every week to start having some energy, okay, to play some kind of sports. We between churches. So next week will be our church facing each other, but the week after, God willing, we'll have a church will come and join us in the meeting, and then we play together. Also the girls. Okay. Do you have muscles? Okay. Yes, Viviana? Jacinta? Okay. Sarah? Yes? Okay. So can you make a team for next week? because I think Carmen and Monica Musa are coming, okay, to have a team together, like, you know, so we have like a, you know, boys team and girls team, and then, you know, we're going to verse like each other. So we have 4 teams, 2 for the boys and 2 for the girls. Next week? No. Oh, okay. I think that, you know, the female, I would say, sports teams, they are very, very strong. And they are very good in many sports than even the boys. When you watch them in volleyball, the girls are much more, like, you know, the boys are stronger, but the girls are more skillful. And tennis now, like, you know, the same thing. And so you need to be. So Damiana, you'll be responsible for forming a team next week. Okay, you've got like Manuel and the rest. Can you? You'll be responsible because there is a team coming from outside. So you have at least, like, you know, five girls. Okay. What are we gonna do? We're gonna have a theme. It's about competing with each other, not as, like, you know, humans like to compete against each other, but the competition between us and the devil. So basically, the devil is in competition with us. And our spiritual life has a price. And that's what St. Paul says. Okay? So we're going to have a theme over a couple of weeks. And every night, okay, we'll have like some kind of social interaction with sports interaction about the World Cup. So we're going to have our own World Cup. Okay, we'll call it our own World Cup. So you're not missing anything in Qatar. Okay. Okay. Strong, Tabitha? Sarah? Yes. Mary? Now you have to, guys, inshallah. Okay, that's a very good word. Inshallah. This is very good. And the boys as well, there's like a team coming from outside, so we need to do it in a way. All right? Thank you so much. And by the way, that's Fr.Pishoy's idea. So he's very good in corporate life, but it's not corporate anymore. Okay, so we're talking about a higher level than this. Okay, thank you so much, guys.
Spoiled the surprise. My goodness, that's fine. I got just do my job then. No. So just to run through the wrap up. So the meeting starts. Guess what? 7:30. And you know what time everybody showed up? It wasn't 7:30, I can tell you that. I'm not much better. I came a little after 7:30 myself. I'm the first one to admit it. So please, let's all try to come 7:30 so we can actually finish before 10 o'clock. And so we usually start this meeting with Vespers. After that, we pray together the midnight prayers. We launch into hymns. We go straight into the talk. So please do try to come from the beginning. You know, it'll be good for you guys to like warm down and then warm up again just before soccer. We've got the Wednesday night Bible study with Abuna Shnuti that's still happening. It's no longer in this big church. It's actually being held in the Church of the Annunciation. If you don't know where that is, show up on time at 8 o'clock and you'll know exactly where it is. Otherwise, you can follow the stream of people that go there. The other thing is the Friday night youth meeting is still going nice and strong. That also starts at 8 o'clock. Here in the big church. It starts again with Vespers. Do try to come along if you can and or are able to, because they do have amazing talks, a variety of different activities, and good culture, good vibe. So with that, I think we're all going to stand up for prayer. Let's go.
Jesus stands and says, I am the way, don't go far away, hallelujah. I am your Christ, I am the light, when you fall my kingdom come. Hallelujah.
Thank you, dear Lord, for the opportunity to stand in your house tonight and to hear, Lord, today about our identity. You'll know how much pressure we are facing every day in our work and our dealings with people. And the devil is trying very hard for us to deny our identity, because you are our identity. If we deny our identity, then we're denying you, Lord. We ask you to give us the courage to be able to openly declare our identity, to be able, Lord, to have the courage to stand as strong Christians against all the wars that comes against us, because we can do all things through Christ who strengthens us. Help us to believe in the privileges that we have as Coptic Christians. Help us, Lord, to believe in the true faith. Help us to believe that we are privileged to be called your sons and daughters. Something to be proud of, not to hide. And through our witnessing, Lord, through our actions, we can point people to you. And we can fulfill your commandment when you said, you are the salt of the earth and the light of the world. Help us, Lord, to fulfill that commandment through our actions, our dealings with people, Lord. We ask this through the prayers and intercessions of St. Mary and St. Mina and the saints of today. Hear us, Lord, we pray. Thankfully, our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, and thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as in heaven. Give us now our daily bread, and give us our trespasses, as we give those who trespass against us. And lead us not to temptation, but deliver us from evil. Through Jesus Christ our Lord, for thine is the kingdom, power, and glory forever. Amen. And the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. And now, God the Father, grace of his only begotten Son, our Lord God and Savior Jesus Christ, give the Holy Spirit with you all. Go in peace, may the peace of all be with you all. Lord, join us for some pizza at the back.